Let's take a brief look at the Butcher AK/Car mod pack. This was the second paid weapon mod pack released for Payday 2, and adds, as the title suggests, several mods for AK and car type weapons. So before talking about the mods themselves, I'll need to address the way that you unlock them. Similar to the mods in the Gauge mod Courier pack, you don't unlock the customizations instantly upon purchasing the DLC. However, instead of hunting down packages hidden throughout every heist, the AK/Car mods are unlocked through various achievements. These range from pretty simple and fun, such as killing 100 cops using weapons from the AK or car families, to downright brutal and frustrating, like stealthing art gallery in under 4 minutes while wearing the ICTV. The idea of purchasing DLC only to have to grind out annoying achievements to get what you paid for is plain silly. It's not so bad when there are simple tasks or things you can complete with a little dedication in single player. However, achievements like Here Comes the Pain Train, which mandates 4 human players beat Firestarter on Overkill or above using unmodded AKs and Paras, are infuriating. Finding 4 players who are willing to put up with using crappy guns on a long heist for a couple of weapon mods they can't even use unless they purchase a DLC is quite challenging, and nearly impossible if you're trying to play with puppies. Nevertheless, the achievements are doable. Annoying, but doable. I'll link a guide in the description on how to best complete these achievements. So, what weapon mods do you get for buying the DLC and completing the achievements? Well, let's split this into 2 categories, AK type and car type weapon mods. Starting with the AK family, we have the modern barrel for the AK, AK-762, and golden AK-762. This is simply a damage and concealment increase similar to the Slavic Dragon barrel from the mod Courier pack. However, the modern barrel does not reduce your accuracy at all, making it objectively better. Next up, we have the DMR kit for the same weapons as the modern barrel, although the stats vary a bit depending on which AK you're using. The gist is the kit increases your weapon's damage and accuracy dramatically at the cost of a steep drop in ammo and stability. It's a worthwhile trade-off in my opinion, especially on higher difficulties where enemies have particularly high HP. After that is the PBS suppressor for most AK-type rifles, including the RPK LMG. I'm not too sure what the deal with this mod is. All it does is increase stability slightly at the cost of a large chunk of concealment. It's really quite useless actually. Our next mod is just the opposite. The scope mount for the AK, both 762s, the Izma shotgun, and the Krinkov. Alongside a small stability increase, this mod will move the scope of these weapons closer to the player's view, making aim down sights much more comfortable and in line with other weapons aiming schemes. Moving on to foregrips, there are 2 available for the AK and the 762s, being the Crab's Rail, which adds accuracy and concealment, perfect for dodge players, and the Key Mod Rail, adding accuracy and stability with a small concealment hit, perfect for armor players. These are pretty much objectively better than any of the other stock foregrips, and on par with DLC variants. The Krinkov SMG also gets a new foregrip, an aluminum foregrip to be specific. This simply adds 4 stability with no downside. There's already a stock grip that adds double the stability, but with a cut to concealment, so this DLC mod is better used by dodge players. Speaking of aluminum, we have the aluminum grip for every AK type weapon in the game except the AK-5, which is actually, despite the name, sort of part of the car family. Anyways, this grip is simply a small increase to concealment and accuracy, again being a great dodge modification. Next up is the low drag magazine for the AK, both 762s, and the Krinkov. This simply adds 4 bullets and stability as well as 1 concealment, which makes it, you guessed it, a great modification for dodge players. Finally, to round off the AK specific mods is the classic stock for the entire AK family. At the cost of a decent chunk of concealment, this stock gives your weapon a small accuracy boost and a large stability boost. Plus, it's stylish. Now let's change gears a bit and swap to the car family of weapons and the mods this pack adds for them. Starting with the DMR kit, functioning basically identically to the AK variant, but for the CAR 4 and AMR 16, plus damage and accuracy, minus ammo and stability, a great choice for higher difficulties. Now we have 2 foregrips for the CAR 4, the oval foregrip, which adds 2 damage and 16 stability at the cost of a pretty decent amount of accuracy, and the EMO foregrip, adding a small amount of damage, accuracy, and concealment, and extra stability on top of that. They're both great foregrips depending on what your build is, and you can probably find ways to use either of these mods effectively. The AMR 16 gets its own foregrip, the Long Ago foregrip. This adds a nice bit of stability at the cost of some concealment. Interestingly enough, this mod is objectively worse than a stock variant, the Tactical Handguard, but looks prettier in my opinion. The Para also gets a foregrip. the Aftermarket Shorty. It adds 8 stability with no downsides, making it objectively the best foregrip available for this SMG, at least at the time of this video's release. This DLC added a new modification category for car weapons, lower receivers. So now we have the Thrust Lower Receiver adding 2 damage with no downsides to the Car 4, AMR-16, and Para. There's literally no reason to not equip this mod to these weapons. Next up is the L5 magazine for the same weapons as the Thrust, as well as the AMCAR, AK-5, and Queen's Wrath. This simply adds 4 mag capacity and stability to these guns, being functionally identical to the Expert mag from the Clover character pack. We're nearly done, stay with me. We have 2 upper receivers for the Car 4, AMR, and Para, being the Thrust upper receiver, which adds 2 damage but kills accuracy a noticeable amount. I never use this mod myself and instead opt for the LW upper receiver, which adds 4 accuracy and 8 stability with no downside. And finally, we have the 2-piece stock for a whole bunch of different weapons across the entire arsenal of Payday 2. This simply adds 4 accuracy and stability at the cost of 2 concealment. This isn't a bad choice most of the time, although the War-Torn stock from the mod Courier pack adds more accuracy if you can take the stability hit. That's it for the weapon mods, which is the bulk of the content in this pack. Before concluding, I'll talk about the masks quickly. They're based off various dinosaurs, being Alfred the Carnotaurus, Pocky the Pachycephalosaurus, Timothy the Triceratops, and Vincent the Velociraptor. These masks aren't bad in the slightest, however, I don't use them myself, except for Vincent occasionally. Although he's actually a Deinonychus and not a Velociraptor. Blame Jurassic Park for that one. That would be about it. So, would I recommend the AK/Car mod pack? Well, okay, it depends. If you have friends who play Payday 2 and would be willing to get together just to grind a few achievements with you, then absolutely. The modifications themselves make a large amount of weapons in the game objectively better, just like the Gauge mod Courier pack. However, the unlock method for these mods is atrocious. This was a very poor practice on Overkill's part, and it's a shame, because the method the mod Courier pack used was so much better. You can collect the packages in every heist no problem while just playing normally, and you didn't have to get a full team together to earn what you already paid for. If you're willing to put up with grinding achievements or already have the achievements unlocked, then go for this DLC. If that sounds like too much work or simply too annoying for you, then I'd recommend picking up the Gauge mod Courier pack instead. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.